Hello, 2nd grade. Today we're going to regroup using 3-digit numbers. As before, we're going to do this with subtracting, and we'll be using the place value model to show our work. When we regroup, we just simply change the way that we think of a number. So for instance, if I'm at a store and something costs $10, I could give the cashier 10 $1 bills, or I could give them one $10 bill. They both have the same value. They both have the same amount. If I was going to draw this with the place value model, I would simply draw 10 circles for the 10 $1 bills, or I could just draw a tens rod over here as a line, or the big fat 10. It would equal the same thing. Similarly, we can do that with 100. 100's block is the same thing as 10 tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Maybe I want to buy something bigger that costs more than $10. Maybe it costs exactly $100. I could give them one $100 bill or 10 $10 bills and be able to purchase the same thing. Now in today's lesson, we're going to focus on the second part, that second example of turning our hundreds into tens. Previously, we've turned our tens into ones, and today we're going to turn our hundreds into tens. I don't want you to forget how to turn your tens into ones, as that is a valuable skill which we'll be using in the future. But today we'll be focusing on the middle number, the tens place, and how we can regroup it to get the correct answer. Let's take a look at two examples. So example number 1 has us looking at 317 minus 142. Before I go ahead and just solve this all the way through and draw it, I'm going to look at these digit by digit. So I'm looking at the place value. And when I do, I hope you see how these are like mini little math problems. If the first digit is bigger than the second digit, we can just solve it like normal, no problem, no need to regroup. In the hundreds place, our first digit is 3, and our second digit is 1. Our first digit is bigger than our second digit, so there's no need to regroup. 3 minus 1 would equal 2. It's when we get to our second part, our second place of the tens value, that we have a little bit of problem. If I wrote this as a mini math problem, I would have the number 1 minus the number 4. And the only way to solve that is to do either regroup or to go negative. And since this is a lesson on regrouping, we're going to go ahead and regroup it. There's a way to solve it which is called negative numbers, but that's a little bit more advanced than 2nd graders go into. So we're just going to focus on regrouping. The first digit 1 is smaller than our second digit 4, so we cannot solve it correctly without regrouping. And our last digit of our ones place is a 7 and a 2. It's like a little math problem. The first digit 7 is larger than the second digit of 2, so I could just do that in my head and solve that. This is how it would look if we drew our hundreds, tens, and ones as a place value model. Remember, the hundreds we can just subtract like normal, the ones we can subtract like normal. When we get to the tens, we're going to have to do something special with the tens to solve the problem properly. I draw my hundreds as 300. And I have one lonely little 10 all here by itself, and 7 ones. We drew the number 317. We take a look at our first math problem, 300 minus 100. So 3 minus 1, we can do that. Gives us the answer of 2. When we get to our tens, like we talked about before, we have 1 10, but we need to subtract 4 tens. Some of you will just think, oh, easy, I'll just switch the numbers around. 4 minus 1 equals 3. But we're going to show you why that's not the right answer. So if I try to cross out 4, I got crossed out my only 1, and there's still 3 to go. What I would have to do in order to get the correct answer is to take one of my hundreds and change it into tens. This is just like we did before up here. Remember that we can change our tens into ones, and we can do the same thing for hundreds. We're going to turn our hundreds into tens. We're not changing our math number, we're just changing the way that we think of that math number. So I've got my 100, and I'm going to change it into tens. Notice I didn't say subtract it, I just simply said change it. So we're going to change it into 10 tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let's take a look and see what we have, and if we can subtract that 4, or if we go into negative numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. When we regrouped it, it's actually going to be 11 tens, which means 11 minus 4 is something we can do without regrouping. Go ahead and turn that frown upside down and subtract 4 tens. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can see here, the correct answer would be 7, not 3. If you said 7, good job. 4 minus 1 does equal 3, however, that wouldn't give you the correct answer for this problem. And so finally, speaking of 7, let's go ahead and look at our ones. We have 7 ones, and we need to do 2 crossed out. Our first digit 7 is bigger than our second digit 7. No need to regroup. All you have to do is cross out 2 ones. Let's see what's left. We're not going to count this. We're not going to count the one that we regrouped. We're only going to count the 100 that's here by itself. And we're not going to count our crossed out tens. We're going to count what's left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 7 tens. And for our ones, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 100, 7 tens, and 5 ones is the same thing as 175. So that's our answer. Let's go ahead and take a look at our last example. In this last example, we again are going to be looking at these as mini math problems, and the math problems are going to be easy except for our tens place. That's what we're focused on today, is regrouping our hundreds into tens so that we can get our answer when we don't have enough tens to start with. Let's go ahead and draw 516. And again, we just have our lonely 1, 10, and 6 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We go ahead and take a look here at the 6, the 5, and the 1, and we think to ourselves, okay, what does each number mean? The 5 is hundreds, 1 is tens, and 6 is ones. And we think in terms of digits over here. We have the digit 1 in the hundreds place, 2 in the tens place, and 4 ones. Let's do our little mini math problems. H to H, so 5 minus 1. Our first digit is bigger. We won't need to regroup. 1 in the tens, subtracting the 2. Oh no, we can't do that quite yet. We have to regroup because 1 is smaller than 2. So we have to do our regrouping. We'll cross out 100. And then in order to change this so that we can do it, we're going to change this number here from a 100s block to 10 tens. So I'm going to draw it underneath so hopefully it'll be easier to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can think of it like we talked about the money, or you can think about it as taking scissors and cutting up the hundreds block. But whatever you do, know that we're not changing our number into a different number. We're just changing how we think about it and how we draw it so that we can get the correct answer. Now that I've regrouped our hundreds into tens, I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tens, and I still need to take away the 2 tens. Now that we've regrouped, I can do that no problem. I take away 1, 2 to get the correct answer. And the last part's pretty easy. I have 6 ones, and the problem wants me to cross out 4 ones. 6 is bigger than 4, so another way to say that is that my first digit is bigger than my second digit, and there is no need to regroup. 6 minus 4 equals 2. and we'll show it on our picture. Finally, we take a look here. I see an X here and some scribbles here, so I won't count those. And I see 3 squares that look perfectly clean and great, so we're going to count those as what's left, 300s. Let's see how many 10s we have left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So 9, when you subtract 11 minus 2, you get the answer of 9. And just like we said, 6 minus 4 equals 2. We have 1, 2. Our final answer will be 392. Another great job today. If you didn't quite understand it today, we're going to do one more example of regrouping in the tens place for tomorrow's lesson. So make sure that you watch that video and keep up the good work. Really proud of you. Great job today.